Sports. Sports are the cornerstone of human games. Throughout history, they've consistently been pillars of entertainment, political tools, and just generally big-ass events that have had unbelievable influence and power. And for some reason, people have always really liked hearing some f***ing guy talk over them. One of the most underrated things that makes sports work so well is the artistic performance of the announcer. His Blue Yeti the brush of Michelangelo, is the contact point between the audience and the game. They establish storylines, dictate moments, and sometimes slip up really bad on the air, and it's really funny. What else is... I forgot the last line. So when sports video games rolled around, naturally, announcers would be a key feature. However, these announcers don't have the benefit of live games or preset player or team rosters at their disposal. In games where any combination of players could be doing any combination of things with potentially millions of possibilities, how is something like this possible?
First carry now for Kyron Williams. And his effort results in maybe 2 yards, but nothing more.
Today, we're going to get gritty. We're going to say some things we probably shouldn't say on the air, and we're going to have to talk about probability and search algorithms. Today, we're going to figure out the answer to how sports announcers work.
He's on fire!
We haven't always had seamless sports games announcers, in fact, quite the opposite. These systems used to either suck total ass and/or work completely differently, with shortcuts and memory-efficient turns being taken at every possible point. The first game I could find that uses a live announcer was Joe Montana 2 Sports Talk Football, released in January 1991. That's basically prehistoric.
I was born in 1996.
Here we can see the first seeds of announcing technology, with the game's announcer providing a dynamic play-by-play.
4 minutes 57 seconds on the clock. Detroit will start 1st and 10 at the 22-yard line. Gets the block. Boom! Tackled immediately. Brings up 2nd down and 11 for the Lions.
It's actually really accurate for the time and fairly impressive, including stuff like team names, close to exact yardage for plays, and situational commentary, but it sounds completely robotic, and this is due to a little technology called speech synthesis. Speech synthesis is the act of a machine saying human words, and can be done in a variety of ways, both stupid simple and stupid complex. Since most games from around this time period were working with the memory capacity of the shit I took before recording, any game that featured it likely used the basic method of concatenating pre-recorded responses together. Like this. LeGoat James goes up for 3, scores! So, what you just heard was a concatenation of 3 different audio samples. This is memory efficient because you can also use any one of these samples in a different scenario while not taking up any additional memory. LeGoat James goes for a mid-range eyes closed behind the back. Scores! This is how a lot of games got around having megabytes to even kilobytes to work with. And frankly, I think is pretty fucking cool. And we're gonna get more into this as we analyze bigger audio commentary systems. However, for the purposes of Joe Montana over here, it was a rudimentary system, and combining this with very, very compressed audio samples leaves us with commentary that sounds more like this.
Return with the score, 0-0. 4 minutes 57 seconds on.
So clearly a little bit outdated, but at the time it was compelling enough to be the selling point for this entire game, and as such sort of opened the doors to more of this type of technology in the future. As time went on and people got better at computers, iconic digital announcers started to emerge. 1993's NBA Jam is a pretty prolific example, with commentator audio quality sounding significantly better, but still very repetitive. As far as commentating goes, it's actually worse and less dynamic than Joe Montana, but with better graphics taking up most of the memory, some concessions had to be made, and it ended up having the unintended effect of burning phrases into people's brains, which is both good for marketing and good for emerging the technology even further. Of course, you can't talk about announcers without bringing up the legendary, the titular, Joel Madden. John Madden was a huge proponent of digital announcing, so much so that the games that featured him started to get named after him, and still are to this day. Madden 2000 featured an only slightly compressed John Madden and Pat Summerall commentating the game and occasionally spitting banter, and it's right about here where we really see shit start to take shape. 2K strolls on the scene the same year, NHL for the Wii is a thing, and has commentating, and from here it just gets better and better and more dynamic, with player names, decompression, intonation, and way more starting to become standard features. So now that you know the history and early tech behind this stuff, let's actually answer the question that's in the title.
I like a shorter, thicker hot dog. That one was a little long and skinny for my liking.
Our frame of reference for a lot of the next few minutes is NHL 2015 and Madden 2015, since both of these games have comprehensive interviews with team members and producers discussing the recording and development behind their commentary systems. NHL 2015 featured, at the time, the most robust commentary suite in any sports game ever, so let's dig into that team's process and see what we can find. In an interview with Sports Illustrated, NHL producer Sean Ramjesingh, I think, stated that they had Doc Emmerich and Eddie Olgziuk, I think, record about 35,000 lines of speech. This includes 5,000 player names, dozens of team names, thousands of actions, thousands of bits, descriptions, and improvised moments, and a general fuckload of contextual information. The sheer scale of audio samples here can't be understated, and to make sure everything sounded natural and engaging within play, most of the lines were recorded multiple times with different intonations. To get these intonations and avoid sounding like Joe Montana Man, the team would either show Doc and Eddie corresponding game footage or vaguely describe a scenario to give them some room to be colorful and animated. Sean himself illustrates this, saying,
"We literally go in there and we say, here are the situations that we want you to commentate on. You need to envision that. We'll give prompts like best player on the team scores the goal, or over the goalie's glove to win the game, and ask them to give us 10 samples of that."
With a set of samples so gargantuan, how do they manage to sort through everything for when some fucking bullshit like this happens? Well, it's kinda just a bunch of if-then statements. For the purposes of this video, we're just gonna call them filters. So let's say in NHL 2015 you score a goal. That's pretty simple, right? Just play the clip where Doc says you score. However, to determine which clip that is, we pass through some filters. Is it the last minute of the game? Is the player above an 88 overall? Is the current goal deficit above or below a goal? If all of these filters are met, then a sample is picked randomly from a pool of however many samples also pass all of the filters. In game dev terms, right up until we hit our random selection, our announcer commentary is narrowed down with a decision tree. We're checking condition after condition, eliminating the ones that don't meet those conditions, until we hit a collection of leaves, in this case audio samples, that we can choose from. It's a simple enough system, but in most cases it greatly minimizes repetition while also being surprisingly efficient. To get the commentary to be seamless, this decision tree algorithm is mixed with a little bit of Mad Libs. Since there's a shit ton of player and team combinations, this algorithm is run for each piece of a given scenario. Let's say there's a pass. What we might hear is, Bergeron lofts it to Marchand. What the game is trying to fill is blank player, blank action. In this case, the type of pass, to blank player. We're filling gaps with the proper samples. Depending on what's happening in-game, the structure switches. So you could have player to statement to team, team to statement to team, statement to player. So many different combos are being filled live on the fly through our decision tree. Some pretty cool shit. Another more modern way to match our samples to our scenarios is through a hierarchy system. Certain moments, depending on the context, demand more or less intense intonations. So to make sure that this happens correctly, samples are ranked in order of importance. This gets a little more complicated, so I'm going to quote straight from the voice of Madden 2016 and beyond, Brandon Gaudin.
So, if we've recorded 1,000 lines talking about interceptions, they're in essence ranked 1 to 1,000 in order of importance. So, an interception that seals a game is ranked higher than an interception made on a diving catch, which is ranked higher than a guy just generically throwing his first interception of the game.
With databases of now hundreds of thousands of lines, potentially, ordering these is probably a huge pain in the ass, but it removes a lot of the ambiguity around picking a sufficiently hyped line. With all this advanced shit hiding behind the scenes, with more to come, what would the future of commentary technology even look like? I'm pretty positive the future of this technology is AI. This can go one of two ways. One, we replace real samples from talented commentators with seamless AI-generated slop feed. 2. We use the interpretive power of AI to help make real commentary flow even better by guessing what happens and filling in-betweens, ideally helping to create nearly infinite natural-sounding responses to any possible sporting event. The possibilities are limitless, but we have to remember that the human is what makes the commentary work. Commentators are the bridge between the audience and the game. They apply motion, a distinctly human sensation, to the moments that make sports. And yeah, sometimes they fuck up, and sometimes lines get repeated in Madden, because you can't wheel a dude or dudette into a studio and ask them to record everything. But without that human element, we would lose the essence of one of the most important parts of sports entertainment forever. We lose that contact point between viewer and game. More importantly, we lose Doc and Eddie, which would be a huge deal for some people, I would imagine. So anyways, I'm Namby San, aka Slamuel on Spotify, aka the 203 Grim Reaper, and I hope you learned something today. Because if you didn't, I don't know, there's not a lot I can do about that. Thank you, subscribe, and stay tuned. Fuck out of here.
Keep saying it. You know, it's just another game. You know, it's not just another game.